1 week out from my powerlifting competition, and this week can make or break how I perform on the platform. Here's exactly how I'm preparing to lift the most amount of weight I've ever lifted, and fingers crossed not screwing it up. Let's go. So let's set the scene, as I've not exactly been hugely consistent with my content I've been putting out there recently. So I am currently 1 week out from my next powerlifting competition, where I plan on totaling at least 712.5 kilos. Fingers crossed that'll be broken down into a 250 kilo squat, 160 kilo bench press, and a 302.5 kilo deadlift. So training hasn't been quite as consistent as I wanted it to have been. I've hit about 2 to 3 sessions a week average over this past 12 weeks. I've had the flu, I've got on TRT, so testosterone replacement therapy. I've started using knee wraps. Yeah, there's been a lot of changes over the past 12 weeks, but that hasn't put any dampeners, shall we say, on the experience of the prep. I've managed to do this preparation with 2 friends as well, which I'm going to be competing alongside with, all in different weight categories. One under 90 kilos and a masters now, one under 100 kilos, and me currently in the 100 to 110 kilo bracket. I'm sitting in at 108.9 weighed in this morning, so feeling pretty thick, shall we say, at the moment, but fingers crossed that gives me a little bit of extra confidence when it comes to getting on the platform. What I plan on hitting may slightly change come game day. My original plan was, as I said just then, was a 250 squat, a 160 bench, and a 302.5 kilo deadlift. Now, as this prep has kind of gone through, I've kind of seen what's been going well, what hasn't. The squat has been going well. I now think I'm going to be aiming for 260 come comp day rather than 250. I think that is going to come at then the cost of my bench press, because recently I've been maxing out at around 155 kilos. I did 155 kilos last week and it was quite a grind. It wasn't quite the RPE 9 I'd hoped for, and it was more basically like an RPE 10. So I reckon I'm going to finish on about 150 come comp day. We'll see. And then the deadlifts have been feeling really good. They've had their ups and their downs, and they've been feeling really crap, feeling really good. But the past 2 deadlift sessions which have been positive, have been my RPE 8.5 and RPE 9. They've been a 270 and a 280 kilo deadlift. So 302.5 is the goal. I just needed to get a little bit more than my last competition, where I hit a 300 kilo deadlift. So it's currently Monday. I'm competing on Saturday. So today's session is the 3 lifts, the squat, the bench, the deadlift. And I'm doing singles. I'm going to be doing 3 sets of squat, 3 sets of bench press, and 2 sets of deadlift at around 80 to 85%. So still relatively heavy, keeping things tight, keeping things feeling ready, and just managing my fatigue through the week. So let's get into the squats. I'll kind of break down a little bit extra, maybe a little bit into this session, to kind of give you an idea of what the rest of the week is going to look like, how my eating is going to change, and how I plan on kind of getting everything else ready to perform the best come comp day. Anyway, enough chit chat, let's get squatting. Let's break down a couple of the specifics. So in these past couple of weeks, I've been training in my singlet, and so I've been making sure I do my squats, and I've been doing my deadlifts in the socks, just so again I'm getting comfortable in the kit again, and making sure standards are kept as high as possible to make sure that when it comes to game day, it's just another lift, because that's essentially all it is. Now, because this is the first competition I'm using wraps, I need to time myself to know roughly how long it takes me to put on wraps and how long I can kind of stand in them before my legs start to feel essentially numb and uncomfortable. So this is actually something completely different for me, and probably foolishly, but I went for some stiffer wraps. So I was using kind of like the intro wraps. I think they were Thor's on the Strength Shop. So they were Strength Shop Thor knee wraps, whereas I went up to the Odin's. So they're they're quite a fair bit stiffer, which means they're a lot harder to put on, but they're supposed to give you a little bit more assistance when it comes to that bottom of the squat position. So I haven't really had enough time to really grease the groove in these, but I'm sure I'll be fine. So let's time this, put this on, give an idea of how long it's going to take, and then get into my first set. So I've got 2 singles now at 85%, so that's 212.5 kilos. that is based off of a 250 kilo back squat. So that's what I've been basing this whole prep off of. Even though when it comes to comp day, I plan on hitting more, this is what I've been training off of. So this is how I want to make sure in peak week, I'm going to be training off of as well. Nothing out of the ordinary, no extra percentages or anything like that. I've already done all the work that I can. This is now just a fine tuning and making sure that I'm prepared as well as I can be for comp day. So let's get wrapped up, let's time it, and then get the first set done. So not quite as fast as I was hoping, but it still moved relatively well. I've timed it, so I know that basically putting on my wraps takes about 90 seconds, just under. And that means by the time I'm ready to go, it's 2 minutes. So that means I need to be putting on my wraps from 2 people in front of me, because each person gets a minute on the platform. So it gives me a good idea of, once I know in the queue, the people that are 2 ahead of me, that's when I start putting on my wraps. So then by the time they're done their squats, my feet, I can get myself ready, get myself in, and get myself grooving and under that bar ASAP. So now, onto bench press, gonna warm up, and then we're gonna discuss the nutritional strategies I plan to put in place this week. Okay, so let's talk about nutrition. This prep hasn't quite been necessarily the smoothest. So because I transitioned onto TRT, so testosterone replacement therapy, I didn't want to put myself into a deficit and stay in a deficit when I thought I'm already adding this new stimulus to my body, so the increase in testosterone, and I want to kind of allow my body to do its thing rather than adding in the dieting stress to it. That's the excuse anyway. Really, I just want to keep eating calories. But so I then decided to stay in the 100 to 110 kilo category and kind of just eat my way up to the top end of that category. Now I'm sitting in, as I already mentioned, at 108.9, so I'm sitting quite comfortably at that top end. Now this week, the only difference to my nutrition I'm going to make is make sure the sources of nutrition are a lot cleaner, shall we say, and keep the quality a lot higher. Because the last thing I want is, 1, to get sick this week, but 2, I also want my body to recover as best as possible. So making sure I'm eating plenty of whole foods, getting all my supplementation still in, making sure I'm not taking on too much caffeine through the week, so I can kind of allow my body to recover slightly. So then when it comes to comp day and I smash back a load of caffeine, I get myself hyped up, it has a bit of an influence. So over the week, I'm going to start to tapering down my caffeine. Today, I haven't put on any of the music that I usually do for all my top sets, because I wanted to kind of keep myself quite calm and relatively collected so that I can just approach the lift as it is and not under too much of a high stress state. Now, as a different example, however, someone else I'm competing with, they're making sure they're just under the 90 kilo category. So because he's trying to make sure he's under there, he's making sure that his foods that he's hitting are hitting his calories that he's needed to hit over this prep to maintain that weight, because he's very, very close to that weight and he doesn't necessarily sit there easily. So because he's had to diet down to this new body weight, he has to do a little bit more work when it comes to getting on the scales on Friday evening at 5 p.m. So if you're prepping for a competition and you've decided to diet down to hit a certain body weight, then that is definitely something I would recommend, either getting as close to it as possible, where you can then do a bit of a water cut to get yourself under on the day if you feel experienced and if you feel ready, or just get yourself down there and get yourself down to that low body weight as early as possible so you can get comfortable at that new body weight. Because when you are lighter, things do feel different. And that's also something I've had to take on board myself over the years. When I've come into the under 100 kilo category and I compete there, weights feel heavier because I've just got a little less cushion for the pushing, shall we say. Anyway, I'm going to get into my first top set here. So 137 kilos. I want to make this look fast and I want to make this look light. Let's go. Felt a bit of discomfort in my side just here as I was lowering that bar down. So that was definitely my forefront of focus rather than the weight itself. So make up for it in the second set. Probably wouldn't feel as good because I did that whole talking clip in between my last warm-up set and my first working set. Probably not the best time to do a clip like that, but we learn, kind of. And there we have it, bench press done. Now on to deadlifts. Now when it comes to deadlifts, what I want to kind of discuss with you is the mental aspect of competing and the mindset that you want to kind of have going into competition and things that you can do during the competition prep to get you ready for comp day. So I'm going to unload that bar, get the platform out, get the bar set, start warming up. I've got 250 kilos for 1 to 2 sets of 1. So let's get warming up. So not gonna lie, deadlifting only a few days after hitting an RPE 9, things are rather tight, shall we say, and a little bit tender. So we'll see how today goes. 120. Now, I know I can't use tape in competition, but tape just preserves the thumbs ever so slightly. And Friday session I didn't use tape because I wanted to be as specific as possible. But because today, even though specificity is the aim of the game here, I still need to preserve my body as much as possible so that I can actually get to comp day and not be broken. So when it comes to the mental aspect and the approach you should have when it comes to game day is you essentially want to train as you compete. So what do I mean by that? I mean everything from the warm-up that you do, so the weights that you use on the way up, the approaches to the bar, the technique, the when you put certain bits of kit on, like when do you use your wrist wraps, when do you put your belt on, all these sort of things take away guesswork when it comes to competition. Because at the end of the day, when it comes to competition, there's going to be a lot of adrenaline, a lot of other things going on that's going to kind of take you out of your groove. So what you need to do is have something where you can kind of lean back onto when you feel that maybe things are kind of getting a little bit out of control. So by leaning back onto your systems just means that you have a much better chance of success. So this whole prep, I've been jumping up. I go 70, 120, 150, 170, 200. And at 200, I then stick my belt on. So after 200, I'm then gonna go 220 for a single and then 250 from there. Because it's how I've been warming up this whole prep. So let's get into 200 with a belt and then see how that moves and kind of just get on with it, really. So it's definitely feeling a lot heavier than I'd hoped, but it's to be expected only a couple of days after doing a very heavy single for the day. So I'm still a little bit tender, but it's all good. The body is going to recover. I'm going to focus a lot on recovery in the meantime, make sure I give my body the appropriate nutrients to give myself the best chance possible going into competition, feeling ready and firing on all cylinders. So 255, 5 kilos heavier than I thought it was today, but it's completely fine. We're gonna move this as fast as humanly possible. Positive energy only, and this negative stuff. All right, fast, easy, let's go. Whew. So that was a lot heavier than I thought it was going to be. 255 kilos. It needs to move a lot faster than that when I'm warming up for it on comp day, and I know it will. This is definitely fatigue carrying over from Friday. It's Monday, so definitely not enough time for my body to recover. But there's now no more heavy-ish deadlifts. I've got some RDLs on Wednesday, and that's about it. So really, that's the session. So the only things left to do now is to rest. recover, fuel, give myself the necessary nutrients to come competition to be firing on all cylinders, and make sure I don't do anything stupid in the meantime. So got a relatively busy week with clients and stuff, so nothing out of the ordinary there. But I've got another session on Wednesday, which will be some lighter squats, about 75-80%. So for a couple of singles there, got the same with the bench press, some RDLs and some pull downs, I think. And yeah, that's about it. So in recap, the goal of this competition is to hit a 712 kilo total, which will probably be made up of a 260 squat, a 150 bench, and a 302.5 kilo deadlift. They're my goals. That's what I'm going in to try and do as well as I can. I am going to be taking my camera along to the competition, so I hope you're about to get some footage. It all depends on kind of what the setup's like there. The last competition, if you didn't see that video, you can see that if you can click on the top of the screen. That one I didn't prep for really, did badly, and yeah, it wasn't the best time, but it was a fun competition nonetheless. But this competition, I'm going to hopefully get as much footage as I can, take you guys along for the ride, and fingers crossed we smash the goals. So if you're going into your first competition, one of the main things I would say to ensure you get the most out of it is try not to do anything different. You want to be training as you compete. You want to be finding these systematized processes to run through every time you approach a bar, when you put on certain bits of kit and everything like that. Those systems just mean when it comes to game day, anything that comes up out in the ordinary that you're not necessarily prepared for doesn't take you down, because you're like, do you know what? I can then focus on the things I can control, and then you can worry about the little details of the slight little changes that may have happened. An example of that is I got my best ever squatting competition using a monolift, and that was a massive hurdle to overcome. I'd never used one before. I'd never not walked back in a squat, but I had all the other systems in place, like how I approached the bar, how I unwrapped the bar. The only thing I didn't do was walk backwards. But because I had those systems in place, it just meant that that wasn't too much of a hurdle to overcome. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed today's video and hope you got some stuff out of it. If you did, I'd really appreciate a subscribe and a like if you'd like to support the channel. But apart from that, thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.